Do you want your business to grow faster? Are you open to new and out-of-the-box ways to drive revenues and increase value? How do you imagine the most successful entrepreneurs and business leaders double, triple, or expand their businesses tenfold or more? The answer is deals. This is a weekly podcast featuring conversations with business owners, executives, and leaders as we reveal behind-the-scenes details that give you, our listeners, the confidence to pursue your own deal-driven growth. On this show, we discuss a huge variety of deals, everything from large, complex mergers and acquisitions, capital raising, joint ventures, strategic alliances, real estate, affiliate and sponsorship deals, franchising, and more. My name is Corey Kupfer, and I've been supporting deal-driven growth for businesses for over 35 years as a successful entrepreneur, professional negotiator, and attorney. My goal is to help you strategize, plan for, find, and complete deals that will help your company grow faster. Welcome to the Deal Quest podcast. Let's get started. Leah and Becca Wiser are twin sisters and creative partners who help service-based businesses take their brands and websites to the next level. With over 100 websites launched, they are more than web designers. They are strategic partners for companies looking to attract high-end clientele, generate quality leads, and turn their website into powerful sales tools. Having founded 3 companies in the digital space, Leah and Becca bring a deep understanding of the online world and how to fully leverage website growth. They work closely together, and this is a big part of what we're going to get into, is their close relationship as business partners. They're originally from South Florida and now based in Washington, D.C. They're also big animal lovers, which I am as well. I was so happy to see my dog after traveling for 2.5 weeks, so I got to reconnect with Macy. They were co-founders of Always, a free emotional well-being app featured on Forbes, NBC, and CBS. And I am so excited to have them on the podcast. I've gotten to know them a little bit in advance, and these are 2 phenomenal, dynamic young women, and we're going to get to hear about their journey and their business partnership. Leah, Rebecca, thanks for coming on the Deal Quest podcast. I am so happy to have you on, and welcome.
Thank you, Corey. It's really awesome to be here. Yeah, it's such an honor, and we're thrilled to be on.
Okay, so we're going to get into all of your entrepreneurial journey. We're going to get into what is it like to be business partners who happen to be also twins, identical twins. But before we do all that, I want to take you back to when you were little kids growing up, maybe 10, 12 years old. What did you want to be? Because, listen, I know you had other businesses before this, so I'm assuming running a web design company was not it back then, but you tell me.
Every day it changed, but the one that lasted the longest was that we wanted to own a spa together. So we were very into wellness and relaxation, and we made our room, which we shared, a spa. And we'd have friends come over, and we would do yoga, and we would have aromatherapy, and we were just really into it. I remember filming a commercial for it too. So the marketing brains were already working back then. So yeah, we were always starting different businesses and entrepreneurial journeys even back then.
I love it. And I noticed you use the word together. So from day one, was there no doubt that whatever you were going to do in business was going to be the 2 of you?
Oh yeah. I think because we're twins, we've never been lonely one day in our lives. And we always knew that we wanted to do something together. And from the time we were 8, 9, 10, we'd be doing this little spa, and we'd have friends over and paint each other's nails. And it was a really great way to get to know how to work together and what each of our strengths were. So we feel really lucky that we were just kind of born into it.
Yeah. So one other question looking back, what was the first deal of any type that you did? It could have been something small when you were a kid, or maybe in one of your earlier businesses. What comes to mind?
As soon as you say that, what pops in is, I remember being in 8th grade, I believe, and we were the last ones in our grade to get cell phones. Our parents were pretty strict with the technology and the limits there. And I think that was our first pitch deck that we created. We did a whole presentation on why now is the time and why, we are responsible enough to have cell phones. And it was a successful pitch. Yeah. It finally worked. I mean, it was, believe it or not, that was late to get a phone. I don't know how old kids are these days when they're getting phones, but it definitely taught us the power of a good pitch deck and a good presentation. Mm-hmm.
Now, what, like, you actually put together a physical pitch deck, right?
Yeah, we printed it out. We had a whole presentation. We prepared it. We knew that we needed to go in with some solid points of, negotiation.
So what had you like even understand or come up with the idea that you would do this, as opposed to saying, please mom and dad, can I have a phone, right? Like what had you even get the idea to do a pitch deck?
Our parents had us watch TED Talks from the time we were young, and before we could open up a TV or turn on a TV, open up a computer, they would have us watch something educational before. So I think just from seeing others present, it kind of inspired us to create our own presentation. We didn't know it was a full-on pitch, or we didn't know the verbiage for that quite yet, but intuitively we knew our parents are going to need more convincing. We're not going to be able to just ask. We're going to need some solid data and some good convincing points.
Oh, wow, I love that. Did they ever regret that decision, or did you?
I don't think so. I think they were impressed that we were able to convince them, and I think they found it very useful. Communication is a great tool, and it became a convenience for them. So no regrets thus far. Yeah, it's more now these days that I love setting boundaries with my phone, and I'm actually really grateful that it took a little longer for us to get phones, because we were able to actually be present for longer than a lot of kids get to. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting time that we're in this conversation, because there are some countries in Europe now, right? Or I think Australia might have been the first one, talking about maybe France, some other places, where they look into ban, social media, at least for kids under, I don't know, 16, some of these places or whatever. So it's really fascinating how, and, there's a lot of data and science now on the impact on, on brains and depression and, all that kind of stuff. So it's, your parents had good instincts, I think.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about your entrepreneurial journey. So tell us a little bit about, did you work for others? Did you go your separate ways at any point? When did it come together? Tell us a little bit about that background.
Yeah, we're really blessed because we have so many amazing women in particular in our family who were entrepreneurs and showed us that you could start a business with nothing. I mean, I remember looking at my aunt, Jennifer, and she started a jewelry business in her child's playroom, and it's flourished tremendously and become a huge business over 20 years later. And our mom has run many businesses, and our grandma ran businesses. So just being able to see strong women who we admire do it, I don't think that we ever questioned our ability to do our own thing. We've actually never had standard jobs before. We've always run our own businesses, and it's a different path than a lot of folks take, but it's been really great. And we started working really young. I think when we were around 12 years old, we would go with our aunt who ran this jewelry business to trunk shows, and we would help her sell jewelry. And it was really fascinating to see the impact and show how being really hands-on in your business can make such a difference, and having that one-on-one relationship with your clients. So we were really lucky in that way that we got to have some really amazing role models.
I love it. I mean, it's always fascinating to me how people become entrepreneurs, and I've had, many on the show who have these entrepreneurial models in their family, and then there are others like me, but no entrepreneurial models in their family, and somehow had the gene because I was running a business when I was 15. So, there are situational entrepreneurs, and then there are, I think, natural born entrepreneurs. I'm not making a judgment on one or the other, but somehow I was a born entrepreneur, even though I didn't have any models for it. In fact, my parents thought I was crazy when I left big law to open my own firm, because they would never do that. Of course, they got to see it was the right move. But so, yes, it's so fascinating to me. And then, another layer for you all, I mean, to have a couple of generations back of women, entrepreneurs. I mean, go back to your mother, certainly your grandmother's time, and it's still, unfortunately, a minority, right, companies, but certainly 2 generations ago was a whole whole the ball game. So, I mean, kudos to your grandmother. I mean, being an entrepreneur in that era. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right there with those models. All right.
Yep.
So it's interesting because like one of the main reasons, I mean, there's so many reasons that I want to talk to you and spend time with you, but in terms of the focus of this podcast and deals, one of the things I really want to bring you on to talk about is business partnerships. We've had some folks on in the past. It's been a while since we covered that topic, and that's a deal. And I guess the easy default thing would be to say, hey, we're identical twins. We have this connection from the womb, right? So it's natural, but business partnerships aren't easy, right? And it brings in other issues and challenges and whatever. It's one thing to be sisters. It's one thing to be close. But I'm assuming, despite the level of your connection, there must have been some challenges and ups and downs, right? In that journey and learning how to work together and things like that. So I'd love you to share some of that if you would.
Definitely. We're very honest about the fact that it's not always easy. And we luckily have had the ability to work with many coaches and counselors specifically around our relationship in the business. There's been rough points where we didn't know if it made sense to continue. We wanted to prioritize our relationship. It's such a special dynamic that we have, and we didn't want the business ever getting in the way of that. And we have found tools. We've worked with different coaches who have gave us questionnaires about our personalities and working genius. And now we have some more language to understand how we work, because even though we're identical twins, we're very, very different, believe it or not. Our brains work in different ways. Leah's a lot more detail oriented, while I am a lot more big picture, and we just see things differently sometimes. So having tools to be able to navigate the ups and downs makes a world of difference. Yeah. And I would add that being really honest with each other about when something's not working. It's really easy when things are super busy to just go on about our day, but just like how in relationships it's important to take time and assess things, in a business relationship, you need to ask each other, how are we feeling? Are you feeling valued? What can I do to be a better business partner? And that really just changed everything for us. And this one particular coach, we called it business therapy, because it really just felt like we were being able to open up and be honest and have no filter. And that was really game changing, because we had been doing the business for about 4 years and we felt a little bit stuck. And being able to express how we felt without hesitation was really helpful and set a new foundation for us.
Yeah. I mean, to whatever extent you're comfortable, are there some examples of places or specific incidents where the challenges came up that you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this probably goes back to when we were kids, but sometimes you feel like you're doing more than the other or keeping track, and it can become more about checking off a box than really being in it. And there are times in life where you're able to show up more than others. Yeah. And that's something that we've realized too. There are times where Leah wakes up and she feels awesome and is ready to tackle the day. And there are times where I don't feel quite that way. So she's able to really balance it out, and we're able to show up for each other. And some of the issues that we faced were surrounding us not being compassionate about that. Just like how when you're a little kid and your parents give you a brownie to split, we were almost so, obsessed about making sure that the split of work was so perfect that we forgot about how value comes in different ways. It's not about the hours that you've worked that day. It comes in waves and it ebbs and it flows. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love the brownie split, analogy, right? Because it is, because I mean, I think most, every listener can, has had that experience of kids, certainly when they're siblings, right? Or even, like she got more than me. Like, and it could be like a microscopic difference, right? But they're so, that bringing that energy into a business partnership and understanding, and obviously where the brownie analogy goes off, which, is that the brownie, I mean, there is a measurable, what is half and half, right? Because it's a brownie. And it's half, whereas, you said bringing value in different ways, right? So there's somebody Like there's this default to think about it in terms of hours,
Wow.
um,
Yeah.
which brings up a whole other issue on how, we tend to tie success to how hard we work. And I know I went many years ago through a process of working to decouple those, right? And say, what if I could be way more successful and work less? Like, what a concept, right? And that was just like my own internal journey and challenge in letting go of the hustle. Listen, I still work quote unquote hard, right? I love what I do, and I don't think this 4-hour work week thing is real for most businesses, but not having it be how I measure myself, but not having it be my identity. And that was just like me and my own journey, right? And then when you add in, a business partner to that journey and the comparisons that could be easily be made, and
Yeah.
and how you define the brownie, whatever, I could only imagine it can get very complex.
Definitely. And that's where the boundaries come into learning how to set limits. We also live together. We're in our 20s. We live together in Washington, D.C., and we work together. So that could be a recipe for a lot of conflict. And while we, like I shared, have had our issues in the past and we're definitely not perfect, we are really committed to just talking through everything and having different things in place, like stopping working at a certain time, or knowing that the weekends are not for work, and when it's sister time and when it's business time. So having some parameters in place makes a big difference too.
I love that when it's just the time and when it's business time. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, my wife and I, who don't work together, she has her own business. I have my own business. You all actually know that. But we do support each other, right? We're like each other's advisors, right? And even sharing and stuff like that. We try to, like we actually do a weekly meeting for the business of the relationship. And then we also have time when somebody, that's defined time, because the business relationship is another thing, right? Just like, right? What's going around the house? What do we need to, like, all that stuff that could really, but then we designate time to support each other and work to, certainly not, for example, discuss it on date night, right? They keep it separate, and having those boundaries is sometimes challenging.
That's amazing that you're that. So do you have a meeting specifically about your relationship to talk about things, or is it more to set boundaries between the relationship and the business?
So we do a weekly meeting in which we talk about the business relationship, and that could be anything about what's going on between she and I. That's stuff that just has to get done. That's decisions on scheduling and where we're going to vacation, and like all that logistics and business stuff, right? Try to put that in a single bucket, right? So it doesn't spread out to the rest of our time. We have a place also where we know. So like what she gets off 5 calls, I'm not coming to her and saying, I need to talk to you about this, whatever. And she's like, whoa, wait a second. I was just about to relax. We have our time slot where that goes.
That's so smart. Brilliant.
Yeah.
When I had the opportunity to meet you in LA a few months back, it was right before the new year. And you mentioned that you and Ra were going to do some visioning work together before the new year. And I just have to tell you that I love that you do that as partners and as a couple. I went back actually and I told Leah about this as well. I know, of course, different type of relationship, but thinking about the vision that we want for the business. So thank you for sharing that. And what you and Ra have is really beautiful. And we listened to your episode as well, and it's together with Ra, and it was really fantastic.
Well, I appreciate that. And listen, for the listeners, I mean, I was just out of Florida at that one quantum mastermind that I'm involved in, and led a 531 for 25 entrepreneurs to set their vision for the next 5 years. So I love doing that process. And we're recording this in early February, so by the time it comes out, it'll probably be March. So hopefully you've done your visioning, for the year, but you can do it anytime. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be the calendar year. If you haven't done it, certainly it's super important. So all right, let's go back to your entrepreneurial journey a little bit, because it said, in the bio, you've had a few companies, right? You've done them together. Let's talk about, that journey. What worked, what didn't work, what'd you learn, in general, what you learn about working together. that I'm sure you're bringing into your current company to make it more successful?
Yeah. Well, we were talking about working the two of us together. Our previous company, we actually worked with our parents and our younger sister.
Okay.
In many ways, this feels like a piece of cake. And our other business that we ran with the family is called Wumaze, a mental health app for women. And we started the business from our college dorm rooms and ended up leaving college once we got investors and left college, went back to Florida and worked on this business with our whole family for 5 years. So to say it was an interesting journey is definitely an understatement. We learned so much, and the app surrounded mental health and emotional well-being. And I think we learned very much about how important our own experiences are and how that comes into play. And I mean, there's so much that we can get into here, and happy to dive in wherever or if ever uh, it seems fit. But we definitely got an entrepreneurial business crash course through that. Yeah, it was a very, very different type of business from what we're doing now. And I think it was, as Becca mentioned, just the ultimate lesson in business. And we met the most incredible people. It set the foundation for the rest of any other entrepreneurial journey we do. But it definitely led to some burnout. And it was during COVID as well. So we were kind of stuck at home, and it was a very interesting experience. And I think by the time we were ready to part from the business, it was definitely took a lot of time to make that decision, but we were ready to start this new business, particularly because of the way that it allowed for flexibility and working with people one-on-one. So there's many different types of businesses, and we learned which ones we're most aligned with. And I'm sure that there will be more in the future. Yeah. We're still very early on our learnings and our lessons.
So you said you raised capital. Let's talk about that a little bit, right? So you're college students, right? Were you going to the same college?
I followed Leah, yes. I was initially at a different school for a year and a half, and like we were saying, I guess that twin connection is pretty strong. So I followed Leah over to school in Washington, D.C.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit, so did you bootstrap the app for a while? What stage did the capital come in? What kind of capital, was it? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So definitely want to give credit to our younger sister, Hannah, whose idea the app was. So it was the summer of, I want to 2017. And we've all been very passionate about mental health. Our mom was trained as a therapist. We always had conversations growing up surrounding body image, surrounding our emotions, anxiety, depression. And thankfully, these conversations are a lot more common now. But our friends started coming to us also with different questions, and we would have these conversations. And we talked about how late we were getting phones. And one of the things we were also pretty delayed with is social media. We weren't allowed to have social media until we were a little older. Now I try not to be on it too much, but our goal with the app was to create a place where you can mindfully scroll through things that would actually help you feel better instead of an alternative to social media.
Yeah.
So Hannah came up with this idea for kind of a toolbox for life in this form of an app. So we ended up just kind of writing down this idea, like you spoke about earlier. I think there's something about writing this down and having a vision. So we wrote down the idea and then ended up at our cousin's wedding meeting her company team. She works for Giphy. We met the CEO of the company, and he was so encouraging and so excited about this idea that we had. And by that point, all we had was an idea, but he really gave us kind of that boost of confidence. So always want to shout him out. And then we just started drawing out our ideas first on paper and then digitally. I had already started my first marketing company, a Little Wiser Marketing, and I had some experience in design already having a business, a small business. So we had that entire semester of school, I think it was the fall of 2017, we spent designing this app, not really knowing how we would build it because we weren't app designers, but with our very limited skill and design knowledge, we, first literally on paper drew it out how everything would work. And then eventually, as we met more people who knew way more than us, we use different platforms and were able to build something that we could actually show an app developer. And as all of this was taking place, we were in school, so this was kind of a passion project. We didn't really see it as a business even. It was just something that we all felt really passionate about. And as we got to meeting people, we definitely kept it very quiet. We felt that it was very sacred, so we didn't want to share it with, especially because it was so new. But we ended up meeting two people who we had known for years, and just we met with them kind of synchronistically, and they wanted to invest in the business. So we didn't even know that we didn't know at all. We're really just going to them for some advice, saying, we have this idea. It's very, very early on. We had very rough drafts of a design, nothing too professional. And these people, I think, really saw our passion and took a chance. And they invested, and pretty much right after, we decided to take a leave of absence from school initially, and then pursue this.
Let's take a break from the show for a minute so I can tell you about an incredible resource my team and I have put together for you. Secrets of Deal-Driven Growth, Creative Ways to Grow Your Business Even in Challenging Times, is a powerful ebook that helps you take DealQuest podcast episodes and apply them to your own life and business. This is the ideal tool for anyone looking for creative ways to grow as deal makers, and you can get yours now. It's as easy as heading to coreycupford.com/workbook and downloading your copy. While you're there, you can also consider joining our dynamic deal-driven community of founders, experts, small business owners, and entrepreneurs. Now back to the show.
Full time for 5 years.
It's funny. There is this saying in the raising capital world that when you ask for money, you get advice, and when you ask for advice, you get money.
I love that. I haven't heard that.
Which is what happened with you, right?
Yeah.
All right. So now you get these two essentially angel investors, right?
Advisors.
How did in terms of just okay? So it's not like you went out to raise capital, right? You went for advice. In terms of even at that young stage and age, understanding how to structure a deal like that, or the analysis of whether you should take the money, or if so, what the valuation would be, that kind of stuff. How did you figure that stuff out?
There was a lot that we learned just on the job. So like we said, we didn't even realize initially that this was a business, to be honest. So a lot of it was trial and error. We definitely met with some attorneys and accountants and coaches who, there's many out there who also offer free consultations, and you can learn a lot and then find one that works well for you. We're very passionate about having people who are a lot smarter than us and who know a lot more than us helping us. And I think early on, that was certainly something that we had because we were so new at this. So we ended up having these two investors who also became advisors, and they had each run several successful companies, which is why we went to them initially just for advice. But, they were very well connected and helped us get in touch with business coaches and folks who really allowed us to be in the right rooms.
Love it. Did you, I know that you had family members who were entrepreneurs. Had any of them raised capital, or they had run self-funded businesses in the past?
I think it was all pretty much self-funded. This was the first time we had experienced raising money, even though we didn't really know that's what we were doing. Eventually, further on in the business, we really got familiar with pitch decks, and the goal was to raise a significant amount of money through a series of official investment. But in the beginning, it was really pretty informal. It was more of a conversation. So, obviously we had legal documents and all that set up, but I think it was kind of an accidental raising money type of thing.
Did you have one of the things that I always like to ask people, and I've done this before, I've raised real estate funds and whatever. Did you have anything like your relationship to being a steward of other people's money, right? Like, it's a different ball game when you raise outside capital and you're risking your own. Talk to me a little bit about that journey, because I know, there are some folks who it's very easy for them to do. They don't have a lot going on around a bit. So some people actually don't want that responsibility at all. And even if it makes sense for their business to raise capital, they just don't want to do it. And then, obviously there are people who are in between who make the decision to do it, but that maybe they struggle with a little bit, or at least they have concerns. Like what was your relationship to taking in outside capital?
That's a great question. It was something that we felt very, very grateful that we had access to.
Yeah.
We also did not take that lightly. It's a lot of pressure. I'm sure anyone who has gone through that process knows that it's almost a little harder to sleep at night knowing that you are taking a risk, not with your own money, but with someone else's. So we did not take that lightly, and we didn't take a salary for any of our time in this company. So we worked pretty much for free for 5 years, and the company was a free app. So monetization-wise, that was our biggest struggle. The business that we're running right now is set up very differently, and it's a service. So it's a lot easier to determine the value. But for a free app where you don't want to have advertisements and you don't want to make people pay, it's certainly a tough sell for investors. So yeah, it was really important to us that we kept the app free, because we'd get hundreds of messages each week, at a certain point. And that's really what kept us going, just seeing how much the app was helping people. We wanted to make sure that it was always accessible. So that's why we had a really hard time with the monetization, because we wanted to keep it that way. Yeah, we ended up growing the community to over 100,000 people, and we put on events, and we had other facets of the company outside of the app. And then COVID also came, so things changed. And one thing for the listeners as well, we're people who believe in that vision, and also giving yourself the grace to pivot. So after 5 years of running the business, and again, working with the whole family, we knew it was time to move on. And we are definitely forever grateful for that opportunity.
That's great. And listen, I gotta say, I want to give you a little credit. There's especially in the entrepreneurship world, especially, in the funded company world, there is this ethos that goes around, about, you gotta grind it out, you gotta hustle, and you can't quit. And it's all about persistence and, whatever. And listen, I think there's some value in that. Like, somebody who is not willing to believe in their idea and, and work at it and deal with some of the inevitable ups and downs and challenges, is not going to be successful. So there's a truth in that piece of it, but there's also something in, and I think it's why they, we call it the world pivot, because nobody likes to admit that either failed, or that's not serving us anymore, or that's whatever. Right. So pivot sounds like it's a more strategic, decision. But the truth is, like, sometimes it's time to surrender. And that doesn't mean you're a failure. It doesn't mean, it's just, it could come from a lot of places. Maybe you find out that it's not viable, or that to make it viable is inconsistent with the values that you want. Maybe it's just too much of a personal cost involved. Maybe, it's challenging with the other people that you're doing it with, there's a lot of reasons where, where I think we need to, there's a balance, right? Because you don't want to, but where this hustle culture and this never quit culture, I think, goes way beyond where it's healthy, or appropriate, or even good for the business.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I think that's an important piece to bring up, because there's always, like, the default is you got to hustle, and you got to, and basically you got to make this happen at all costs, right?
I love what you said about surrendering, because at a certain point, I think there's a lot of power in knowing when something has completed its course and it's time to move on, because sometimes things are meant to be learning experiences. I think it was a phenomenal learning experience. We don't see it as a failure. We see it as something that really set the foundation for everything else that we do business-wise. And there was so much freedom that we all had once we decided that it was time to move on.
All right, so let's talk about, so you make that decision to move on. You make that, what I think is a courageous decision, right? Especially in a business where you have been having a positive impact on folks, right? And now you're in this business. What was that journey like? How did you decide to do what you're doing now? Talk to me a little bit of that transition.
This business was also kind of started accidentally, which seems to be a trend over here. With the app, we were doing a lot of design, and when you're running a startup, you're doing a little bit of everything too. So, of course, with the app development, we were involved. We had some amazing developers working with us, but we were heavily involved in the design, the branding, the marketing, and we realized that we really loved it and that was something that was really lighting us up as well. So we, for fun, created a website and a brand for a therapist who was involved with the app. We connected with so many people in the mental health space because of the app. So we're building this really special community. And a lot of these people, especially in the beginning of COVID, needed websites and brands, and some of them did not have that in place. So we started doing websites for fun and doing the logos and the branding, all self-taught. Of course, we've done a lot more training since then, but most of what we've done is really self-taught and through learned experience. So it started with 3 clients, and then it's grown to, we've launched over 100 websites. So it's very much just word of mouth in the beginning. And I think that showed us that there's something here too, because there was a need for it, and we just loved working one-on-one with people. And for us, it's always about helping people share their gifts with the world.
So it's interesting. Let me just give you a chance to talk about more of the value, because it's interesting. Like websites have, I remember in the early days of the internet, because I was in business back then, right? People used to charge tens of thousands of dollars for websites, and then obviously technology changed. They become easy. You even have like website builders like the Wix of the world and the Squarespaces and whatever, right? So at some level, it's become commoditized. It's interesting. I was just listening to, again, we're recording this early February. The first one of the podcasts that I like to listen to is The Pitch. And on the first episode of the new season of The Pitch, there was somebody who pitched for a WebGL firm where they're doing like 3D websites, things like that, but they're creating a builder like a Wix for people to be able to do their own WebGL websites. So, and the challenge with that and whatever. So what in this day and age, right? What is the value proposition that a firm like yours brings, beyond somebody throwing up a Wix website or a Squarespace website or whatever? Why are people paying people to do websites anymore? And I don't say that, like I say that to give you the opportunity, because I know there is a reason and there is a value prop.
Absolutely. Similar to how when we were younger, we were really passionate about having that spa. We call our business internally, and I guess now externally, since we're saying it here, that it's the website spa. So with anything, it's all about how it's done. So we're very concierge, we're very white glove. We take our clients through a very hands-on process where we're doing everything from start to finish for them. So yes, anyone can go on and create their own website. And we have many people come to us, and I've spent hours and hours and hours trying to build my website. I thought I could do it. And I have surrendered to the fact that I need some extra help, that this is not what I wanted to do when I started my business. I want to, do XYZ. They talk about their services and then talk about how the website's just taking up all their time. So a lot of times we come in and we're able to totally take that off their plate, and we're able to strategize also. I think that's a huge part of our jobs, is not just the design and development, but it's the brand strategy and the marketing strategy and how that pieces into your website. We say that your website should be your greatest sales tool. It's not just there to look pretty. So for us, it is more than just having something up. It's about how hard it's working for you.
So talk to me a little bit about how the duties break down in this new business between you two as business partners and bringing your special skills each to this particular business.
Well, it's been about 6 years since we've done this business, and it's evolved and Sometimes on the day-to-day it changes, but overall, Leah is our creative strategist and very detail-oriented, very design-focused, and I tend to be a lot more client relationship-focused, business operations. I'm on every call and still involved with the design, but Leah's definitely the lead in that. But we always are giving input and helping each other with different roles.
It's interesting. If you look at any of the business operating systems, whether it's scaling up, whether it's COS, whether it's, I mean, you name it, people do strategic coach, they all have the same concept, right? This, whether they call it visionary operator or executor or integrator or whatever, like there is this concept of somebody who is more the outward facing face of the firm. It's the Steve Jobs and the Wozniaks. It's the Charlie Munger and, Buffett. It's like there's always, very often you have this combination. And I do believe it's true, right? You have somebody like I am in my firm, that the visionary, the front facing, the one who's out speaking, the one who's out getting business, whatever. And if I didn't have people who actually executed and, and made happen and integrated, a lot of times there's this default view that, oh, you have this visionary and they're the most important thing in the firm. And you have all these people who just, help out. No. The integrator, operator, execution person is at least as valuable because nothing would get done properly executed or actually delivered to a client, right? If it were all up to the people like me, right? And at the same time, the business probably wouldn't, be sustainable, in terms of business development, in terms of, maybe some creative new directions for the firm and things like that, without, the visionary. So the fact that you two, I think people may assume that identical twins would have similar skills and personalities, but the fact that you two like cover those two key roles and have learned to work well together to get on it is phenomenal.
Thank you. Yeah, our brains work in completely different ways.
Yeah.
And doing all of these assessments and trying to figure out, okay, what's my strength, what's Becca's strengths, that's been so helpful. And I think also we've learned to value each other's strengths because no job is more important than the other. They really work in tandem. And because we each have these qualities, that's why it's successful.
Yeah, that's great. So you started focusing more in mental health, healthcare, practitioners, therapists, things like that. But the business has expanded. You work in other verticals now as well, right?
Absolutely. We specialize in working with service-based businesses. So what that means is anyone providing a high quality service that they really want to represent in the best way possible, that's who we work with. So we work with lots of people still in the medical world and also in the interior design, architecture. We've worked with different organizations, historical foundations. So it's pretty broad. I know in business, a lot of times they tell you really niche down and we're working on it. But for now, we really love working with a wide range of people, and we always lead with our process and the results, fairly industry agnostic for now.
Love it. Last question about the business before I close out with my final two questions on the podcast. What's the vision moving forward? I mean, you've already had a funded company, right? This company is not funded, it's self-funded at this point, right? Like, where do you see this business going? What do you anticipate? I don't even think I have to ask the question of whether you anticipate it continue to be with the both of you, because I think that's a given, right? But what do you see for the future?
I think there's so many advancements in technology and web design. We are always trying to stay really informed on what's new. And even with this new AI being so involved in website design, we're really learning a lot and want to be at the forefront of that. So I think keeping that same ethos and keeping the same goal of wanting to make our clients' lives easier and make the process enjoyable and the outcomes amazing, but seeing how we can utilize this new technology to make websites even better.
All righty. Well, listen, I got to connect with you both personally. I love who you are as people, and I'm excited for your future and the fact and what you've accomplished and everything you've learned and the journeys you've had and at a pretty young age is amazing. So what you can't imagine what you're going to continue to create together in the decades to come. So if people want to find out more about the website design business and consulting and strategy that you do, where do they go?
Yes, you can go to awiserwebsite.com. Our last name is Wiser. So, we got that thrown in there. And we are also available on Instagram at a Wiser website.
Well, my final question of the podcast is always about my highest value in life, which is freedom. And for me, that means everything from freedom around the world for people from oppression to why I'm an entrepreneur and haven't had a boss for decades. What does freedom mean to you, and how does it impact your life and business?
That's an amazing question. I think freedom is having the ability to give freely, to choose how you spend your time, where you spend your money, where you live. It's all of the things that having the type of job that we have and being an entrepreneur gives us. And that's life's goal for me as well, just having freedom.
Love it. Okay.
I think you said it perfectly, Leah. So I would add my own twist that for me, a lot of freedom centers around being able to be present, because that in today's world is such a gift. It's something that you can have all the riches in the world. You could have everything you've ever dreamed of. But I think the ability to be present is where a lot of real freedom comes. And obviously still learning, very much human. And my goal is to become better at being more and more present.
Love that. Becca and Leah Wiser, thanks for being such great guests on the DealQuest podcast.
Thank you so much for having us, Corey.
It's such an honor.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of DealQuest, where we help you understand how deal-driven growth can be your ticket to freedom. If you are interested in finding out more about my law firm, the services we provide to entrepreneurial and growing companies across industries all over the country, and my partner Brian Megan and I, and my amazing team, just head over to cupforlaw.com. That's cupforlaw.com. And if you want to follow more of my content, head over to my LinkedIn page where I post regularly. I'm Corey Kupfer. Until next week, wishing you the freedom and financial prosperity that I know your DealQuest will bring.